Greetings, Pathfinders. There we have it. Alright, due to an unexpected power outage, we had to cancel yesterday's show. However, we now get a rare Saturday show. And if this works for more of you, go ahead and contact me on social media, and because this time slot is actually not that bad for me at all. But I will keep everyone informed if there's a shift in that. Otherwise, I'll be back on the air Friday. First things first, we do have some Paizo news. After that, I will be going over the Cartomancer. I will draw a hand and kind of show you how the Cartomancer plays. And then I have a very, very special announcement dealing with next week's stream. So please stay until the end, and hopefully you'll be as surprised as I was. Alright, so before the Cartomancer, just some quick Paizo news that you could catch on the blog. Luis Loza has gifted us a great number of new pantheons to go along with Lost Omens Mongi Expanse, such as the Freeing Flames. So if you are looking for more pantheons, more sets of gods, more ideas for your next cleric champion, or just fighter who really enjoys a certain set of deities and ideals, go ahead and check out that blog post at paizo.com. You could also check out news about the new Evolutionist base class for Starfinder. It lets you, from what we could tell, it's kind of like a mix, I believe, between a biohacker and a shifter. Lets you alter your body, do cool stuff like that. I can't wait to see how it plays. There will be a playtest, but we have really no further details. Right. So, 404 is coming out, and I've just been looking forward to this, if anything, just for the name of this mission. It is, in fact, called 404 Mission Not Found, as it deals with the continuation of the Year of the Data Scourge in Starfinder Society, which is has a basic plot line dealing with hackers infiltrating the Starfinder Society on Absalom Station. So, just really happy to see the title. Everybody's been loving it. In case you're not in on the meme, now you are. In addition, we have learned that the next big multi-table special is in fact going to be a dual system special between Starfinder and Pathfinder 2. There's possibly some timey-wimey stuff going on, not 1,000,000% sure on the details, but we do know that there is a story involved that you have to play the Starfinder and Pathfinder 2e versions to get the full picture on. Should be lots of fun. A lot of people looking forward to it. Really exciting idea, and I love it. Last week we did do our Booster Bestiary and got here our Tome Shredder. If you're interested in seeing me make these creatures live, go ahead and check me out every Tuesday from 6 o'clock till about 6:30. Where I will open a random booster pack, and my audience can help me pick a creature and build one, as we explore a bunch of new neat mechanics in Pathfinder 2e. But today we are going to go on to the Cartomancer. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my... There we have it. Go ahead and turn on my document camera, just in case I want to show some stuff off here, because I do have this physical book here. Great book, love it, really inexpensive. You can just pick it up on Amazon or Drive-Thru RPG or wherever it is you buy your books. I had to get mine really quickly, so I did pick it up from Amazon here. Of course, they also have PDF versions, but I mean, well, just here, check it out. There's color artwork on almost every other spread. Some pages do have 2 pieces of artwork to make up for that. Beautiful, wonderful, fun art. Always dealing with whatever spell or effect is on the page there, of course. Really, really, really imaginative. Love the cards fighting here on the back, which there's a copy of that in the spells as well. It's a really well-bound book. Really high quality overall. Really, really proud to put this here on my shelf. As for the class itself, as that is what the whole point of this video is, isn't it? So, the Cartomancer is a caster. Pretty much a full caster. It has some Gishy-like abilities I'll get into later. It is very much dependent on which of the 4 traditions of magic you want to get into, which is dependent on which of the 4 decks you want to play. You use regular poker decks with this class, which I'll get to later, but you get to effectively each card in each deck refers to a specific spell. These spells are separated by traditions, so the Ace of Spades in the Primal deck is different from the Ace of Spades in the Arcane deck, and the Divine deck, and the Occult deck. That way, the class will play very different depending on what traditions you pick, or even if you pick a cross tradition. Get into that very, very shortly. Um, I shall get into it now. There are 4 different games you get to choose. These are the class subpaths, so to speak. Uh, Hi, Alex. So Double Dealer gets you that second deck. It's the the most noticeable of the class subpaths, as having 2 different decks gives you 2 whole traditions you get to cast off of. Card Reader gives you some Harrow and Augury-like powers to make it a little bit more like almost like a Harrow deck. It can predict people's futures and gives out some buffs to your teammates. Card Sharp lets you throw discarded cards. It lets you convert cards basically to weapons after you're done using them as spells. And add stuff like you could throw entire cones or area of effects with a 52 card pickup. You can add energy damage to them. You could upgrade them like their weapons. You could do a lot of fun stuff with the card sharp. And card counter lets you manipulate your deck. That's more for people who want to focus on the spells within their tradition. You could look at the next 3 cards of your deck and reorder them, discard and regain cards. It's about deck manipulation itself, because the deck does play a big part of this. As to play this, you do in fact need a deck of poker cards. As like I said, you draw your hand of 5 cards. Each card represents a different spell, and as you play, you effectively get to discard these cards in order to cast these spells, spending the appropriate actions. You could spend a focus point and 2 actions to shuffle your hand, your deck, your discard pile back in. You could spend an action to draw back up to 5 cards. Each of the spells are a little bit weaker than your typical first level spell in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. However, you could discard additional cards that either share a suit or are within a line with those spells. So if you have a 5, you could discard a 6 and a 7. If you have a 4, you could discard a 3 and a 5. As long as they line up, so to speak, you could discard them to empower those cards. Doing that increases the power of those spells in ways that you get quite a bit of control over. Some spells will be like, well, you could add 5 feet to the range. You could add 10 feet to the radius of effect. You could add +1 to the damage dealt. It's nice that they give you these different options. This entire book, I'm going to be honest with you, I was waiting to gush on this at the end, but I can't help myself now. This entire book is such a great example of how the solid foundational math of 2E gives designers the ability to just go absolutely crazy and make these great kind of classes without potentially shattering the balance of the system, and adding in these kind of little mini games that don't add too much mechanical complexity because the base game itself has such that rock solid foundation. Especially when you start getting into, of course, actions, the spells being balanced. Different cards do take different actions. Some will take up to 3, some will just be a reaction. We'll get into that later when I get into my top 10 favorite spells. The Cartomancer itself, you do need an open hand for your hand and an open hand for your deck. I suppose a GM might let you wear a bandolier or a dual disc and put your deck in there if you want to, but there's no base options for that, which is fine, with the exception of some of the spells do give you claws or other weapons you have to wield with your hand, which at first I was a little confused by, but then I realized, oh, you could just do that when it's your last card in your hand, or if you want to discard all the other cards in your hand to empower it even further. Again, it's just adding there to the options. It's adding to the strategy. As there's a surprisingly high amount of strategy in playing a Cartomancer, as you can imagine, since you're playing this little mini game with your cards here. Okay, so my personal favorite, the Jokers are wild, so they can empower any card. In addition, they could be spent as a reaction to counter a spell. Incredibly powerful effect, but you do only have 2 Jokers per deck. The 4 of Clubs in, I believe it's the Divine list, is the Pinball. It's a giant marble, functions kind of like a flaming sphere, except it could trip people, and it is a giant metal sphere, so it's doing bludgeoning damage. Thermal Transfer, the 5 of Clubs. This lets you hit one person for cold damage and another for fire. You're literally stealing the heat from one target and putting it into another. Absolutely love that flavor. I kind of wish the cantrip that hit 2 enemies was that instead of electricity, because that's really cool. That's just, I absolutely love that. Miniaturization Aura makes everybody around you tiny. Aura or yourself if you want. Or you can just do it to enemies. So it's a basic debuff for people around you, but the flavor behind it, making everyone really small, is pretty dang cool. Eruption makes a tiny volcano. Not tiny, a small volcano. So first round you concentrate, it will shake and people could fall down. Second round, poison gas. Third round, fire. I'm just really happy to see a volcano that does more than bludgeoning damage and fire. Solar Flare is in fact the ace of diamonds, and it's Solar Flare. What could I say? You could scream Solar Flare and blind enemies around you. Who doesn't dream of that? Maybe somebody who doesn't watch DBZ. Two of diamonds is Punch Soul. You punch somebody so hard, their soul comes flying out of them. It's kind of a stun effect. They'll get back in their body pretty soon. A lot of these are, in fact, helpful to your teammates. Some of the more powerful spells, like they feel like they're second level-ish or higher spells, are very situational, which, given you don't choose what spells you have access to during an encounter, is kind of the balancing factor there. For example, Amplify Healing simply amplifies healing spells and effects around you. Specifically not transfer effects, so you can't use this with your lifelink. But things like that, it's a pleasure to see those. It really adds a lot to the class to be able to look at a card and go, this might be useful later in the encounter, but not now. Maybe I shouldn't discard it, even though I need to draw new cards now. Planar Shove lets you shove somebody into a portal of an opposing aligned plane, so they'll take damage and then wind up somewhere else on the battlefield. And, of course, I have to give a shout out to Three of Spades, Sprout, because it makes a tree, and I love tree tokens, and I love trees. There's so much you can do with spontaneous trees. In addition, there's not just these spells in this class. There are some backgrounds here that come up with some new skill feats, such as a feat that makes it so you can cheat during games of chance without being caught, gambling feats. There's focus spells such as House of Cards, which makes... you have to draw and spend cards to cast these spells, but it makes giant barriers out of your cards, which especially cool to imagine that. That'll be a really easy miniature to make. Just print out a card and plug it into one of those little cardboard stands that they use for Pathfinder pawns, and you'd have yourself a little house of cards, little wall of cards there to block your enemy's attacks, keep them in place, do whatever else you want to do with your conjured walls. So this book, yes, was written by Andrew Stoekle, developed by Michael Sayer and Jason Nielsen. Andrew and Michael, I believe, worked together on some of the Akashic Mysteries and Spheres of Power books. So I've heard they've been working on this for quite a while, I believe, since the playtest. So I could assure it does feel very, very polished. The spells in here, I frankly, I just want to take some of the spells from here and add them to a normal caster. Like they're supposed to be, and they are kind of weaker than first level spells, like I said, but some of them are so flavorful and so neat and so cool that I frankly just want to add them to my caster as is. I'll play the weaker caster. I need these spell effects. Some of them are just so much fun, which will, of course, add to how fun it is to play this class when you're drawing your card, which I'm going to get to right now to kind of show off how this class plays, because I think that says a lot more than going page by page and looking over everything they could do. All right, so I have a deck of poker cards right here. I have taken a Sharpie and Sharpied over these cheaper card sleeves I got here from Star City Games, and just so I can remind myself what each card is. As I was doing this, it only took me about 15 minutes, as they are very well organized in this book. You could play this class without doing that. It's just I love cards. I love putting stuff on cards. I make feat cards. I make Kineticist power cards. I like cards. You could probably make entire custom cards with the spell effects on them, but the names are so evocative, I don't think you need to. I mean, you should reference the rules, but the point of putting the names on the cards is just so you could see what your options are laid out there in front of you without wasting table time. So let's go ahead and see what we get here. So I shuffled and put down my deck. That would take 2 actions and a focus point. And then I could spend an action to draw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, mind you, I did just read what these spells did, but only about an hour ago. I got this book only about 2 days ago, so I'm not like some special expert on this. I didn't help write this, etc., etc. So let's see what we've got here. First, I'm going to organize by suits to see what can empower each other. All right, so we got 3 spades, 2 diamonds, magic barrier, illuminate auras. So illuminate auras is a very situational spell. For exactly like I said, I was showing auras of people. By the way, before I get too far into this, there is a first level feat for the Cartomancer that lets you get cantrips. You don't have them normally, but you get that feat. You can pick 2 cantrips from your deck's tradition. Wham, you got stuff you could do every round, even without using these cards. But why would you do that when you have cards? Cards! Alright. So, Mystic Suppression lets you, and Magic Barrier, both very similar, and Mystic Blockade. So I got 3 here. They're pretty much just being... Oh, and Magical Interference. I got 4 cards here that are all pretty much, if an enemy is a caster, I could do bad things to them. This hand itself is very, very heavy in anti-caster stuff. There's a lot of really fun anti-caster stuff, which will tend to go online more often in the higher level games after level 6 or 7 when so many monsters get innate spells, but it's not going to be useless in those first couple of tiers. There's plenty of enemies with spells that are challenge rating 1 or 2 or 3. Alright, so it's simple as it sounds. You just take the card you want to spend, and you can throw lots of other fun spells. So Magic Barrier does in fact make a barrier of force. But if I want to empower it to make it larger than simply a 10-foot barrier, I could throw these on here and get myself a 20-foot barrier for a 2-action cast. So I'll do that next round. I could throw that there, and then I could spend my 3rd action to draw until I have 5 cards in my hand. Alright, so one of the things I also love about this, right now I'm going to stop, because each of the suits within each of the traditions has a kind of overarching theme that you get the sense for as you read these. For example, the Arcane Diamonds. The Arcane Diamonds have a lot of anti-magic stuff. The Heart Arcane has a lot of dragon stuff. You could get the sight of a dragon. You could grow a draconic tail and hit people with it as part of casting the spell. You get a breath weapon. A lot of neat stuff like that. In addition, the Ace is always a reaction, and the King is almost always a conjuration spell. About 3/4 of the time, it's just straight up a summon spell, slightly below average of a summon spell, but still, it could only get up to 14, not 15. But at the early levels, it's a solid summon spell. I believe the Arcane summons constructs. It goes through all the different suits. Some of them are less direct summons. Some of them simply summon like a tentacle that functions kind of like grasping tentacles or what have you. In addition, there is a unique summon in this book that they have stats for in the bestiary in the back for every level. It is the animated card, which the suit that you use on your card determines the type of attack it has. It's a focus spell. You're throwing your card out there to do stuff like that. And that's what a lot of the Cartomancer feats are for. They do have, like it says on the back, over 50 class feats to choose from. This is a full, major, well done, well balanced base class that those feats will give you lots of fun, cool extra abilities you can do with your cards. So if you're playing and you see like, okay, cool, Dragon Sight, well, we're not in a cave, so I don't need Dark Vision, or I already have it, so I don't really need it there. So I could either use that to empower Tail Sweep, or, you know what? I have this cool summon, so I'm just going to dump these 2 heart cards to summon my animated card to fight for me. And then as a free action, I'll go ahead and just discard these. Reshuffling does take a focus point and 2 spells, but most combats, let's admit it, are only 4 or 5 rounds long, and you're rarely going to draw through. I don't think you're ever going to have to go, oh shoot, I have to spend a focus point in combat to reshuffle. Unless you have consecutive combats going on for a long time, or you use some cards in your encounter, in your skill challenge encounter before the encounter started, as not all of these are pure combat stuff. So, like Minor Mirror makes a single mirror image. Time Transfer gives a ally your action that you spend to cast the spell. Caltrop Field makes a bunch of Caltrops. Painful Unraveling hits somebody for a lot of mental damage and gives them a debuff, and Paralyzing Breath could hit multiple people and give them big debuff, potentially even paralyzing them. So I definitely like the Paralyzing Breath, but you're going to notice that the ability of Paralyzing Breath, as I look this up right here, that is the 10 of diamonds, and I'll show you how easy it is to... Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking through the primal deck. All right. 10 of diamonds. There we go. Oh, and again, I'm looking through the wrong deck. Okay, once you get yourself to the right deck, which you would be used to doing because you are probably only playing with one of those decks, unless you have the class feature that, in fact, here we go, Paralyzing Breath. So it could slow 2 or paralyze for a round on a critical failure, and the size of the cone increases by 5 feet for each card. Otherwise, it's only a 15-foot cone. So if I want that 20-foot cone, I will go ahead and dump this. Oh, wait, but I don't have enough, so let's just dump these 2 cards, spend an action to redraw. Oh, and I didn't get it. And that right there is why you would want to be a card sharp. So you could just look at your next 3 cards before you draw, choose the ones you want. And if I did that, I would have been able to get those 2 diamonds and get that 25-foot breath. But even without that, you're not useless. You still have a 15-foot breath. There is luck involved, but the luck is not save or suck. The luck is save or do better. It is do, and if you're lucky enough, you could do even better than that. So if I'm ever invited to another live play where I could play this class, I'm really looking forward to doing it. This kind of the theme and the flavor combined with the mechanics of this class look like something that I'm totally in for. Playing a gambler is always really fun. There's lots of different ways you could RP that. And having a mechanic that in the real world is functioning so closely to what you're doing as a character just really helps pump that role play into me. It really helps get me excited to sit down and play with this class every day. I mean, once I made these cards, I just sat around drawing cards, hands of 5, thinking of encounters I was recently in and thinking, what card here would be best to use during this encounter? Some people might find this class a little gimmicky. My only response to that is, hey, borrow your friend's book and read through it, because you're going to pretty soon see that, like, no, there are patterns here that make this class a solid design. I am proud to own this book. I really hope more people can get used to all the wonderful, amazing third-party base class books being released by Legendary Games and others, because, man, this is the game that we're in, and it's fantastic to see these writers working off this solid foundation Paizo gave us, which is a good enough segue into my big announcement today. So, next Tuesday, I do have my booster bestiary. But shortly after that, on Friday, I'm going to be showing off the Emissary book. This just came out this week. Cartomancer came out the week prior. This is another 2nd edition full base class by Legendary Games by Sasha Laranoa Harving. And I was contacted by Sasha, and she said she was interested in being on the show. So I am going to have an interview here with Sasha live on Friday at 4 o'clock. We will go over her base class. We will go over what inspired it, and a whole lot more. So please join me on Friday as we go over this other class and see what wonderful new kind of characters we could build here in the great game that is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Thank you for joining me today. If anyone has any further questions about the Cartomancer or about any of my work, please go ahead and contact me on any of my social media. No Direction Discord is the fastest way to find me, but if you're in a Pathfinder Discord, there's a very good chance I'm in it as well. Otherwise, you can always contact me on whatever medium you're watching this video on. Thank you again for spending the time with me today to get to know this wonderful Cartomancer class. And I will see you on Tuesday where we make a monster together, and then on Friday with Sasha Lorena Harving, so we could watch, we could ask her what her favorite part was about the new 2nd edition class, the Emissary. Thank you very much, and